Hello everyone and welcome back to Around the Scene, presented to you by Playing with Rockets. My name is Perino. Joining me for a very, very special day today. And guys, we're going to have a great episode. Today is one of the best days to be tuning in. I have with me my co-pilot, Squidd, is back in the building. He decided he could tolerate me for 2 weeks. How's it going?
Man, you know, it took some special effort, but I figured I didn't want to put anybody else through that pain, right? So I figured I would take it upon myself to go at it a second time. But no, I'm really happy to be here. As you mentioned, it is a big day here for RL Esports as a whole. We've been following this for a long time, right? So it has been an interesting ride, but now we finally get this sort of culmination, if you will, the expansion upon the RLCS format. I'm very excited to get a look at it.
Absolutely. Again, we are recording this Wednesday, the 15th of September. For those who have been tuning in weekly, we had a big, I guess, update over the weekend, you know, that we had this announcement stream package coming through officially through the RLCS channel today. Lots of people have been speculating. It includes everything, really, that you could ever want to know about the upcoming season of RLCS. But guys, before we jump into that, we just want to make sure to give a huge shout out to everyone that is listening on all of our different platforms. If you like the show, be sure to follow us on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can catch us in all of those different places. Make sure to drop a follow, subscription, whatever it is that you do to get it done. Our episodes will be uploaded every single Thursday of every week, including this week. We're going to be doing a quick turnaround on this one, get it out there for our audience to get everything out there. If you want to be part of the show, you can also go ahead and follow us on Twitter. That is at PWR_leagues and Squidd. You know, normally we would go through all of our different segments today. There's only one news item. There's really only one news item.
A big one.
It's goddamn RLCS.
Well, I mean, two, right? We had this talk before. There's two news items. We got RLCS, all right, and that was the big one. So we'll do that one last, best for last. But first, let's cover the one other news item. Bluey goes to Guild. Now that we've covered that, let's move on to the RLCS, because nobody is surprised by that move, for one, and for two, it also happened on the same day as the RLCS announcement. So, poor timing, I think, but we are only, right now, 6.5 hours behind the time where the stream to announce all this stuff began. So this is entirely fresh in everybody's minds, including ours, and there is a heck of a lot to cover. And as you mentioned, Perino, this is basically an all-encompassing announcement, right? If Psyonix was as clear with people in their communications prior to this announcement as they were during the announcement, I'm sure people would be a lot more happy with them. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Casual jab, I know, but people have been talking about that for a long time.
Yeah, well, casual jabs apparently are allowed because they threw massive shade at Liquipedia during this stream today. We'll cover it. There's a lot to go through. So the way that we're going to do it is, I didn't even have time. I just got home from work. I didn't even have time to actually type everything out personally because there's so much stuff. So thankfully, the moderators on the esports subreddit have created a live thread, and every major piece of information is in there. So we're just going to go in order, basically, from how they announced it to our reactions. And we're just going to try and push through as much of it as we can. And so coming up first, obviously, you know, this is the next season of RLCS. Big one off the top. We are getting not one, not two, but 3 new regions for the RLCS, officially making it a truly global esport. Middle East, North Africa, Asia Pacific North, and Asia Pacific South. So that's 4. One of them, and I'm going to pull it up right now, one of them is sort of going to be a minor region in that they won't actually have world's representation out the gate. But 3 new regions.
I believe actually one of the things that the RL Esports subreddit mods did not quite get there is that with the 3 new regions, obviously, Asia Pacific North and Asia Pacific South, I'm not sure exactly how those are going to work. We do have the esports page from the website that we'll take a look at here in a little bit. Perhaps that will shed some light on that. So if you want to hear more, be sure to listen, keep listening, I should say. But I do also know Sub-Saharan Africa, I believe, is the one that you're thinking of, right? They're still working on adding official support, but I believe North Africa and Middle East are going to both be fully fledged regions. And I say I believe that Middle East is absolutely going to be a fully fledged region. I think everybody expected that, or was at least hoping for it.
Yeah, I read it wrong. So it's Middle East and North Africa in one region. So there's Middle East, North Africa is one.
Right.
Asia Pacific North is 2. Asia Pacific South is 3. And then Sub-Saharan Africa is sort of that, I'll call it a minor region, you know, where we have a lot of different resources. And thankfully I'm not showing the display capture for the YouTube video because my second monitor is just littered with all sorts of stuff. It's quite literal chaos. But they do have the announcement here, so Sub-Saharan Africa won't be a full participant in RLCS, but they will have 2 guaranteed spots in the World Championship wildcard. So they will have a level of access, but not full access. First of all, I'm going to mention that I do owe Ryan a pizza. Again, for those that have been tuning in for a while, I bet Ryan a pizza that they would not add a new region for this upcoming split. I was wrong. I was about 3 times wrong. Debatably for 3.5. Yeah, so I might owe him 3.5 pizzas, which is unlucky.
If you owe him 3.5 pizzas, why don't you just do him a solid? Do me a solid, rather, and just don't tell him, right, about the 2.5 extra pizzas. Just give those to me, or we can like share even.
Okay.
Right? I'll take some of the weight off your back. I could really go for a pizza right now. You know, I was having pizza rolls right before we got onto record here. So
I just walked in the door. I haven't even eaten anything since I got home from work. So trust me, I know. Yes, pizza sounds amazing right now. But
you get this man a pizza.
Sooner or later, in about an hour or so. You know, when we're done here. But yeah, incredible stuff. Extremely ambitious to go for 3 regions. I love that they're just they're full sending, as they say. You know, they're just completely hitting the full send. You know, adding all 3 regions. Everyone all over the world now truly has a shot to participate at the highest level, which is nothing short of amazing. So this is only step 1, but already huge, right? Like this is only like step 1 of about like 10 for this announcement, and already like that's a massive dub. Massive dub.
Oh yeah, totally. And we're going to look into more of the details here later, but I do know that there is going to be a system, right, where they have regions that do particularly well at majors will end up getting more and more spots, potentially for Worlds in one way or another. I don't know exactly what the fine print on that is. We are going to go over that here. But it's an exciting thing to think about. If the Middle East and North Africa suddenly explodes with Sandrock Gaming most likely leading the way, right? So I look forward to that, but I think overall the 3 new regions, especially the South African scene, I have heard good things about that. I know there is a dedicated player base. I don't know any specifics, but I do know that people have been talking about that for a while.
Yeah, and I'm just so excited that and not only just for the Middle East, because that's what we've been talking about, but also for the Asian player base as well. Like to get them on board and fully moved and integrated into the system, it's just a huge victory. Yeah, I'm really excited to see some of these teams compete at the highest level, and we'll see how they do. But I think it'll be rough at the start. But yeah, just a lot going on there. I'm really excited to see it.
I'm a fan. I also look forward to seeing what happens with the African scene in general. I didn't just mention the South African scene kind of being a thing. I haven't heard, like I said, anything. I would love to be surprised by some talented players from there. As Turtle said on the stream, lots of new strategies might be introduced to the field, right, with South African players living in like their own bubble, right, of meta, where they've probably spent years and years refining their own kind of play that we haven't really seen before. So that could also be a very cool addition to that. But something else to note, with these new regions, it's not going to be locally hosted, right? It is all going to be done via, I believe they actually have a partnership with DreamHack. They will have dedicated streams for each new region, which is amazing. And they will also have the same exact format as EU and NA, right? The big two. So South America, Oceania, Middle East and North Africa, Asia Pacific North, Asia Pacific South, and I believe Sub-Saharan Africa, all going to have the same 3-split, 3-regional format to make it into the majors, to make it into Worlds, and to give them a completely equal shot. Everybody has the same odds. They're starting on the same footing. There's no getting screwed over because you're in a bad region. So I think that is another huge step forward that we can all look forward to. Whether or not that will pan out the way that we hope, I can't really say. I think it's a little bit doubtful personally. But, you know, leave some to the imagination.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to jump right into our next one. So, again, this is already, like, huge, right? For getting new regions fully on board. Super amazing. The next one that we're going to talk about here, I'm going to bring it up. It was the next part that was mentioned. So, Team Decals are getting a huge revamp. I'm going to pull up the page now. Again, very organized system here. But the word on Team Decals, so the esports shop is going to include a lot more teams. There are so many more teams that are going to have a shot at getting in there. Not only that, but teams are now going to be getting a home and away decal. So every team will now have a primary and an alternate, so to speak. And teams will have the opportunity to put sponsors on their decal as well. So not only monetizing themselves through the game, but they will be able to sell ad space within the decal in the game. Holy shit, that's amazing. Right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong there? Oh my god.
No, you're 100% wrong. I hate corporate advertising in my good old Rocket League game. Oh well, I bet you there's actually probably gonna be somebody who's like that, right? I mean, in fairness, to play devil's advocate, there are probably a lot of players out there who are like, don't ruin my clean-looking NRG decal by adding their sponsors onto it. Like, I don't want the general on my car. All right, I bet you there's a lot of people out there that are like that. I, for one, see it as a wonderful addition, but I do wonder, they talked about making the decals a little bit easier to implement, right? By just providing the tools to the teams a little bit more, so perhaps putting those sponsors on will be a huge ad revenue opportunity.
Yeah, and not only that, but they're just no longer going to be like handheld by some of the design choices. I really think with, you know, giving teams a pair of decals, you know, a home and away set for all three vehicles, by the way. So that's the Octane, Dominus,
all three of the
and
vehicles
Fennec.
that people care about.
Yeah, well, the three vehicles that currently have esports decals are all going to have home and away sets. So, listen, for all the super fans out there, you guys are going to be dropping a lot of cash, I think, over the course of the season if you want to get every single decal, because there's going to be a lot, but it's going to give the team so much more creative freedom. Like, you can have your cookie cutter, standard looking decal for one, but then just go nuts with the other, you know? So, that's going to, I'm so excited because I know that there is a community of incredibly talented designers who are going to want to like work on this and give teams like a really nice looking decal. I'm so excited. I love the esports decal. I wear my Team Envy one all the time. They're all amazing. We're going to get so much more, and they're going to be awesome, and it's going to be sick.
Yes. I think I had a comment I was going to make, but I can't even remember what it was. There's so much stuff to talk about in the first place that it's probably not terribly worth it. Oh, side note, by the way, while I'm thinking about it, we didn't cover this, but we should note for anybody who has not seen the announcement and does not plan on seeing it for whatever reason, or just hasn't seen it in general yet, or doesn't know, hasn't heard the news, First Touch were featured as interviewers and main characters in this whole trailer. So T-Bates rolled this, and Dazarin showed up at the start. It was basically the first thing that you saw outside of rocket-powered battle cars, which it seems a little bit on theme, right? I feel like that's fair. That's fair. Coming after the battle cars seems like anybody would be kind of put in that spot. But they were the first things that everybody saw, so likelihood of First Touch coming back is high, I think. I can't see any reason why that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it hasn't been officially touched upon yet, but I would assume that those guys are going to come back. And yeah, let's keep it rolling. I don't want to push through everything. You know, we only have an hour, and the issue is that they have come out with so much stuff that I just don't want to miss anything, or then look at the clock and say, "Oh my God, we're already, you know."
Well, we're already a quarter of the way through.
I know. That's what I'm saying. And we've only got through 2
ridiculous.
parts. For anyone who hasn't seen it, you know, and is planning on listening to this first, you have to understand the scale of this announcement is like nothing we have ever seen before for this esport. They put everything out in front, right in the line. So there's just a plethora and a dearth of information to try and run through. So I'm trying to get through them all. Okay, this next one's coming up. It's probably more important for you and I, maybe, than everyone listening. So, in terms of the structure of the regional events, so, you know, we are planning on having, you know, regional events and then split finals and then a World's Championship. That is the intention. Very similar to how Season 10 was run. The grid will not be a part of the upcoming season. They are removing the grid. However, if you're a fan of individual team streams, teams will still have the ability to broadcast the quote-unquote day zero of the regionals. So this is very similar to what we experienced in the spring, where the first day of the regional event, there was no official streams. It was just covered by all of the teams individually themselves, so you could go in and watch whatever team you root for do their thing. I obviously, you know, for Ryan and I in particular, and Squid, I know you as well, losing the grid kind of sucks personally because, you know, we were employed by these people to do this. So that kind of sucks, but at least we're still getting something for regional coverage. So if you guys enjoy listening to us, you know, on the shows, don't worry. Your favorite casters, I think, will still be out there. You just won't see them in that same grid format. It'll be almost exclusively for the day zero of the regionals.
Yes. Well, I will note that that's not necessarily going to be a universal constant, right? You said teams do have the ability to stream their D0, but with regionals being the way that they are, perhaps some teams might not see the value in doing those streams. And I'm saying this because, hint, I have already tried to talk to some people about it just to see what's going on, and let's just say that it's not a 100% deal, right? I don't know one way or the other. I've literally no clue, you know, how far, like, one way or the other they are on that scale, but I'm just going to throw it out there that it's not 100% going to happen. So, you know, you win some and you lose some. I mean, as far as the grid being removed, though, I do completely understand why they did it, right?
It was so many games. So many games for the players.
Yeah, so I think it's not necessarily the fact that it was so many games for the players, more so that it was the time crunch, where I remember specifically one of apparently Jack's tweets where he was basically talking about, okay, well, we had this one weekend, right, where we were doing regional, right, and it was regional day, and then it was grid day, and then it was like one day in between grid and then majors day, or something to that effect, right? So he basically had to play, by the way, not chose to, but had to play more than like a full work week worth of Rocket League in 1 week, in like 1 7-day span. So right, 6 out of 7 of those days they were playing Rocket League, or maybe more, and they're putting more than a full work week into playing Rocket League. And on top of that, consider the amount of coaching time and personal practice and team practice and scrims that you want to put into that, and you can effectively double or even triple the time that you actually see the players playing, and that's how much time they had to invest into it. So I think it might have been the density of games rather than the volume.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, Squid. I think for the players it was really tough to fill it all in. You know, I remember they even changed the schedule in the spring because so many teams were struggling to keep up with the, as you said, density of games in a relatively short time span, you know, between all those different things. I think the grid was a lot of fun. Obviously, I have a lot of personal attachment to it for very obvious reasons, but yeah, I think it was a lot of fun. I'm disappointed that it's going. However, I'll take the day 0 as a consolidation, as you mentioned. Nothing's guaranteed. We're just getting all of this information now. I don't think anyone has set plans for anything yet in terms of broadcasts for any sort of regional coverage or whatever. So there's going to be a lot of moving pieces, and especially coming out today and over the next few days, next few weeks even, teams are going to really be starting to figure it out. By the way, I think we missed the actually really important one at the top. All of this that we're talking about starts October 15th. That is exactly 1 month from today. Today's the 15th of September. They're bringing the return date October 15th. So this is all going to start happening very quickly. That's literally 30 days to get it all sorted and moving. And by that point, we're just going to get it rolling. Yeah, it's a lot.
Everything moves. Also, note on the format, everything is going to be 16 teams. I thought that was a bit of an interesting kind of addition, but, you can talk about that all you want. I don't think I have any particular issues with that. I think the regionals being more exclusive kind of sucks for bubble teams that might not reliably make it into the regionals now as they are, right? Before, when you had a 32-team regional, you saw some random squads come up and be like, oh, hey, look, Nefarious makes it to day 3 in one of the fall regionals. Like, wow, that's crazy. Probably not going to see that anymore, right? Because there's just not enough space. All of those teams will most likely, unless they're popping off for more than one day, right, they're most likely going to be filtered out through the qualifiers, which kind of sucks.
Yeah. I think the bubble teams are probably going to be the ones feeling a little bit, left out. It's hard to say. 16 teams is still a lot for each region, to be honest.
Actually, I did just think of this, and here, let me read this out for you, because this is on the Rocket League Esports page. This is one of the problems. The 16 teams is quite a few, but teams can auto-qualify to regional events. This is a quote, by the way. Teams can auto-qualify to regional events via their performance at the previous regional event. But in the first regional event of the year, all teams must play in the open, right? So that kind of indicates that if the top 4 teams from the last regional get an auto-qualification, there are only 12 spots up for grabs. That's not a terribly large amount. So consider that in your calculations. Yeah.
Right. So, again, it's worth noting, so from the top down, right? Let's look at it as a whole. We'll call this the format section, if you will, of the podcast, because we'll take this, and I think it's worth, mentioning, the entire format of the whole thing. So, top down, this is what we're looking at. So, we will have a Worlds. There will be a Worlds event at the conclusion of this season. Thank goodness. We're going to have 3 splits: fall, winter, and spring.
With 3 regionals, a split.
Yep, 3 regionals, a split.
And 1 major.
1 major. So that's already like a lot of games. Let's think about this, right? If they're doing a fall, winter, and spring split, listen, this is starting October 15th. They have to cruise to get through for what I'm assuming to be a summer world championship. So it's going to be a lot of games. It's going to start happening very quickly.
Here is your one point of reference right now. Stockholm, December 8th through 12th. That is the fall major. So there you go.
Yes.
I don't think any dates past that have really, dates past that have been confirmed. Excuse me. But that was the first one that they said for a major date.
Right. So I have the nice little graphic here. So the fall split will start again October 15th. It runs basically to the end of December. In January, we'll start the winter split. Again, we'll go all the way straight through till about April. Beginning of May, we will have the start of the spring split. And it goes all the way through the end of July, which is roughly then setting up for, I would say, in August of next year, RLCS World Championship. Now, it has been announced, all right, they've already included that for the World Championships, it will be in North America. It will be 2 weeks long. They have not announced any dates or venue yet. So we are working on that. Unless they have it somewhere.
I do want to put a slight asterisk in that.
Oh, sorry. Or we do have dates, but go ahead.
I believe that somebody put out, I don't remember who it was, but somebody put out recently on Twitter that the 2-week date, like the time, may not necessarily reflect how long there's going to be a live audience. So do keep that in mind. It might be a 3 to 4 day main event because the 2 weeks is going to account for the wild card qualifier, which I will briefly cover here in a second if you'll allow me. And then the last 3 to 4 days will be World Championship main event, because prior to that will not necessarily be the main event. They are going to fly out teams that qualify for the wild card, the World Championship wild card event. They will fly them out, and then if they lose, then they're done and they go home. But speaking on that fact, this is kind of like a very slight tangent while I'm talking about it, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Perino. The wild card event is going to be a Swiss with 16 teams. I do not like Swiss necessarily, because you don't get like seeded and then you see, oh hey, this is our entire bracket, we know exactly which teams we're likely going to have to prepare for. In a Swiss, you have to prepare for every single other team, and you might not end up seeing, well, you're not going to end up seeing, you're only going to maximum see, let's see, if you go 3 and 2, right, that's 5 teams that you'll end up seeing out of the entire 15 other teams that are in that Swiss stage, and you might just get some bad luck and G2 in the last round, where somebody else who might be in a subjectively worse team would get lucky and get a worse team in that instance. So that was kind of my thought. Want to know if you had anything to kind of add to that, or?
I personally, before really getting into Rocket League, I really enjoyed watching Counter-Strike, and that's where I really saw the Swiss system in action for the first time. It's much more popular in that esport. I love it, actually, for the record. I'll state it as a viewer. I love the Swiss format. I think it's the most fair in terms of competition, in that it rewards teams for winning, right? But it also gives teams that lose the chance to still qualify. You can always get unlucky with matchups. I think that's pretty unavoidable, no matter the format that you do. You can have, a relatively easy path, and then a good team loses, and all of a sudden they're in your bracket, and you're like, what the heck? I don't think that's I don't really think that's avoidable, truly. I think the Swiss format is incredibly fair. For teams that perform well, they get out early, they get seeded higher. It punishes teams that don't win, and you don't get instances where, right. But you don't get an instance where, like, I remember, forget which regional event it was. Again, I think it was it was maybe even the spring major, where Envy hadn't lost, right? And so they got to, like, the final single elimination weekend, but then they went against a team that already had a loss and then got knocked out by them. And they're like, well,
I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it kind of filters out that perceived, or, well, I mean, true, unfairness, where, teams that win or lose, whatever. Listen, make it out of the Swiss, fine. Then you get seeded first and you just get straight out. If you have to struggle and barely qualify, well, then you make it, but you're on your last life, so to speak. So I actually really like the Swiss format. I'm a big fan of it personally. I'm glad that it's going to be introduced for the wild card, which, by the way, we do have dates for that. So there actually are dates listed deep down here. Again, I apologize. There's just so much information. We're trying to sort through it all. The World Championship wild card will be July 22nd to July 24th. And the main event will be July 26th, July 31st. So, yeah, I think when they say the 2-week event, what may happen is the spring split major might just run, or, well, no, because it's earlier. I don't know. Listen, that's what I have for dates right here. This is the official Rocket League website. Those are the dates that I'm giving you. It is North America. It may not be an actual 2-week spectator event, but you can assume that players and coaches and staff will be there the whole time.
Yes. I also am looking a bit more, and we will figure out, I guess, in due time, if that Swiss system does end up playing out in the way that you've described it. I think it does probably make for a better viewing experience overall, because any team could hypothetically play any other team, which would be cool. But I do want to also move on just a little bit and talk very slightly, because we do not have enough time for all this stuff, but very slightly about qualifying for the main event. There will be 8 auto qualifications. The number of slots that are given out to each region will vary based on how the regions perform at the majors. There are more details in the official rulebook. I just read over them a little bit while you were talking, Perino, and they confused the hell out of me, so I'm probably not going to try to address that right now. However, the championship wild card will have 16 teams. From North America and Europe, there will be 3. From Middle East and North Africa, Oceania, and South America, and Sub-Saharan Africa, there will be 2 seeds in the World Championship wildcard, and Asia Pacific North and Asia Pacific South will both have 1 seed. And then any of those teams have the chance to make it through that Swiss stage and qualify for Worlds, which is just the coolest, I will say. I think I'm not the first one that will say that, but I really can't wait to see what happens, because with South America, I mean, North America, Europe, these are teams that do not auto-qualify for Worlds, so you're basically going to be getting top-level players from Oceania, South America, Sub-Saharan Africa, Asia Pacific North and Asia Pacific South, Middle East and North Africa, and then North America and Europe most likely going to be the teams that are right behind those that auto-qualified for Worlds. So that might end up being some of the best couple of days of competition that we see.
Yeah, and it's just so great that they're actually doing it on LAN too. Can't state it enough. We have not had a true international LAN in such a long time in this esport. It's going to be absolutely incredible to see all of these different teams and how it plays out over the season. You know, the narratives, the storylines, see who can represent the new regions well. You know, if we can get some upsets, I'm so excited for that. Another thing that we're going through with formatting. So the pulling it up here. So again, we have the 3 splits. It will be open qualification. There'll still be a possible avenue for all of the regionals. You know, automatic qualifiers will be given out thereafter based on performances within the regional. Our first international LAN event will not be Worlds. We are going to be getting LAN majors. The first LAN major has already been announced. It will be in Sweden. I believe they said it was Stockholm. It is a players-only LAN, so this is not a spectator event. This is players only. But December 8th through 12th, that's the conclusion of the fall split, we will have an international major LAN in Sweden, players only. I don't care that fans can't be there. Thank God. Thank God.
Yes. International competition has been something that people have been wanting for so long. Myself, and most likely yourself, Perino, included.
Oh, yeah.
Even if we can't be there, all right, as soon as they said Stockholm, I thought to myself, like, oh, God, I'm going to have to get a passport, and the plane's going to be so expensive. And then they're like, it's a players-only land. I was like, no more FOMO. It's perfect. So it's honestly not that bad of a thing. There was some banner on Twitter as well. Happening in December, Stockholm usually only gets 33 hours total of daylight, said Johnny Boy on Twitter. So it's going to be an interesting one. Averaging an hour of sunlight per day in December. Don't really know how it's going to impact the players. You know, a lot of them are night owls, right? You know, they got real gamer hours and whatnot.
Yeah,
but
Justin's getting a super buff for that event.
Cool nonetheless. Yes, that's how the story went.
That and Turbo gets home field advantage. So, you know, you get that.
Which is weird, an NA player having home field advantage in a European nation. I will say, one thing that did slightly concern me is the fact that we did see earlier this year the international that was supposed to take place for Dota 2 in August. I only know this because I was planning to hang out with some of my friends and have a watch party for the international, and then it ended up getting delayed. But they did get denied access to Sweden to host an international LAN due to concerns and restrictions regarding COVID-19. So my assumption is that Epic Games and Psyonix have worked something out with the Swedish government, as they did say they were working with Stockholm in particular. But I just want to put that out there. There have been changes in the past in that capacity. I hope that doesn't happen. I don't assume it's going to happen. I anticipate that with Dota 2, I mean, it's the international. Everybody knows about the international one way or another. It's got the biggest prize pool in esports. So certainly they've heard about that. Certainly something has been worked out. But I did just kind of want to voice a very slight concern that I have in that regard for the whole LAN situation. So.
Yes, there is a full disclaimer on the website that all of this is subject to changing conditions in world health. The YouTube algorithm doesn't favor us when we say the words, but we all know what we're talking about. We'll see. They are planning on doing it. That's the good news. The good news is that they are planning on doing it. If that changes, we will know, and we'll figure it out from there. It'll suck if they have to cancel, because, man, I'm still butthurt about having Dallas canceled way back when in March of 2020. Feels like a lifetime ago, but it'll all be dependent on the public health situation going on in the world. So we'll see is the official answer.
And then I do kind of want to touch on this whole advancing teams thing. I think this is the last major point for the RLCS as far as format goes, right? Is talking about how we determine which teams advance from where. So
Yes.
I am going to read this out. Is there a way also here? I kind of want to put it out there. If anybody wants to see this, the URL is esports.rocketleague.com/RLCS-rules/. That's the entire URL that I have right here on my Chrome. I highly recommend you look for it yourself. It's in section 2.3.6.1, and it's everything there that you would want to know about how we determine which teams advance. Like I said, it's a little bit too complicated for me to really figure out while we're doing this live, so I'm just going to throw that resource out there for all of y'all, and you can go ahead and take a look at that for yourselves and figure that out. And I'm certain that there will be somebody like Lawler who really goes in depth on it as well. But yeah, that's kind of the deal. I'm going to go with that, and we can finally move on here, Perino. That's all the format stuff. We did it. We're like 2/3 of the way done with the show, and we're only 1/3 of the way through the live updates list. But I think we can get a little bit of a lightning round going here.
Yeah, a little bit of a lightning round indeed. I'm sorry. I'm switching between tabs. I'm trying to keep up with it all. It's so difficult. See, this is what happens when you work full-time and then Psyonix decides to just lambast everyone during the middle of the day with all of the most important stuff that'll be dictating the rest of this year for this esport, at least. Right. So, we're kind of bouncing around a little bit. I'm going to head back into our timeline, maybe, if it lets me load it.
Perino, I do also have to ask, I don't think CRL was announced the last time we did the show either. So if anybody's here for the CRL news, sorry.
Go ahead. No, you're good. Go, because we haven't announced it. So if it's announced, say something, because I didn't see it.
I'm just announcing the fact that there is an announcement, because I think we don't have enough time to go on that kind of a tangent right now. So if anybody's here for the CRL news, you probably already have it, for one, because people who are invested in CRL tend to actually go out and actively find the information. But for two, the information is out there. Open qualifiers are starting up here before too long. I believe the first one is happening October 2nd or 5th. I don't know what the date is exactly. I am dumb. Don't listen to me. And then the second qualifier, I believe, will be on October the 12th, and then it will continue from there. So that's a quick CRL breakdown. Congratulations. $100,000 prize pool between two divisions, East and West. That's all you really need about CRL. Things have not changed there pretty much at all. Back to RLCS, Perino.
Back to RLCS. It's worth noting, I don't think we mentioned the number off the top. Breaking it down piece by piece. So the total prize pool for this season of RLCS is $6 million. That is a bit of a jump. You'll love to see it. I don't know how it's going to be split up. I'm sure that we can find that. I'm willing to bet that that information is already out there.
Let's see.
But it's kind of all over the place. But $6 million overall across all the stuff.
Right. Let me look here. So I just Control F'd the prizes section on the rules.
Perfect.
All right, so regional, for each regional in split one for North America and EU, $100,000 will be divided amongst the first through 15th teams, I believe, or it might be 16. For South America, Oceania, and MENA, which is Middle East, North Africa, it will be $30,000 divided between first through fifth or sixth. I don't know exactly. It says T-5th, so I'm assuming that's sixth because that would be weird to have a fifth place thing.
Yeah.
Right. So for Asia Pacific and for both Asia Pacific regions and Sub-Saharan Africa, SSA, $15,000 divided between 6 teams. And then, let's see, So for each regional split 2, it looks to be exactly the same, so no surprises there. For each regional split 3, it is also exactly the same, so that is to be expected. Major prizes. Here we go. So now, major prizes will be $300,000 split between 1st through 16th place with a $90,000 prize for 1st place. That is quite hefty, right? So that's going to be through all the majors, and then World Championships. Here we go. Wild card, it will be $85,000 between the 9th and 16th teams, so those who do not qualify. And then at the end of the World Championship, so there will be no prize in the wild card for anybody who qualifies for the main event at Worlds, because you're going to get part of the Worlds prize. So for Worlds, $2 million split between the 1st and it says T-13th, so I don't know exactly what's going on there, but basically $2 million for every team that's at between every team that's at Worlds, with a $600,000 grand prize, $400,000 for 2nd, $200,000 for 3rd, and then from there on, so yada yada yada. Okay, so $200,000. Sorry, excuse me, for 3rd and 4th. There you go.
Not bad, you gotta say, not bad to be a
Yes.
pro Rocket League player with this upcoming season. Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. You know, when you say the 6 mil, it's a very attractive number off the top, and then you break it down, and you're like, whoa, it's actually split across a lot of the different events, which I really like. You know, each regional event, you know, having, you know, 100K prize pool is really good. That's really, really good.
Yeah.
Very, very strong. So I'm obviously very happy for the players, for the orgs, etc. You know, people supporting them, that they're getting this kind of backing. It's a huge upfront investment. That's just the prize pool, mind you, from Epic Games. So thank you, Fortnite, for supplying the prize pool for that one. But yeah, that's I appreciate the amount of money. I think everyone's gonna be really happy with that.
Well, I mean, to be honest, you know, 6 million, 10 million, it doesn't really matter to us so much, right? It's just like, it's a large lump sum of money, right? When we see the number go up, it makes us happy, right? It's like the dopamine receptors. But it doesn't actually impact us anyway, personally. But it is nice to see that prize going up. More and more people will most likely start to see it as a Tier 1 esport now that we have $6 million dumped into one season, although it's not impossible to say that CSGO, if you combined all of their major events into one season, then they might also rival that or surpass that handily. So, you know, one way or the other, more prize pool, better. Better for the esports economy, ecology, whatever. Who cares, all right? Words. Let's go ahead and move on, though. I think now that we got the prizing out of the way, now we have everything format done, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That should pretty much cover. I'm looking at our list here. The next one that we're going to cover, I think, is actually really, really interesting. So the RLCS is changing direction in their production, so their on-screen production that they, you know, broadcast to the world for their esport. So it's going to be powered directly by Unreal Engine. Now, I'm going to be the first to say we do not have a lot of information as to how exactly this is working. However, they have put out a video, and again, if you're following the RL Esports account on Twitter, you can see it. They have put out a brief little animation package of what that might look like, along with teasing some of the new decals. It looks stunning. It's one of the most beautiful pieces of graphic design I have seen in this esport, and maybe in any esport, frankly, just with how high quality it is, because they're pulling directly from the engine of the game. What the things you can do with it are effectively limitless. Now, I say that with the caveat of we don't know exactly how much they're going to do with it or what they can or can't do, but it from the little like 20 seconds that we have, it's stunning.
Oh yeah. I will say, though, the concept that they use, I believe that does it looks a little bit familiar for those of you who've tuned in to the minor league esports and the CCA stream at times.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of scene does look an awful lot like what we have seen in the past, and I want to give a special shout out to Furphy, because I know he did help to work on that. I know there are a lot of other people who work behind the scenes on it too. I believe Goofy might have had a hand in it, but I don't really want to spit out names, and I don't know who did it. So if you guys know who did it, hit me up on Twitter, or don't, because I really don't care. No, I'm just kidding. In any case, though, it does look phenomenal, and it's great to see that they're starting to utilize the resources that they have, with Epic being the creators of the Unreal Engine. And I know that there's some people like Comp on Twitter, you might have seen his day 170-something, I think he's on, of asking if we can get more people in the lobby so coaches can spectate. And part of that has been speculated as a feature potentially of Unreal Engine 5 if Rocket League were to make a port. So perhaps it's baby steps in the direction of getting perhaps more players in the lobby, generally more features in the game in the first place, or even a full port to Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah, it's hard to really say with this because, again, there is a lot that they can do. We just don't know exactly what they're doing with it. Again, just based on the animation that they put out there of, they have like a hypothetical between like NRG and BDS. It looks fantastic.
So good.
But you, in theory, again, because you're pulling directly from the game engine, mind you, you can do things like have animated scoreboards during the broadcast, or, you know, augmented reality kind of things where you can play with some of the visuals that show up on screen. The possibilities go on for a long time. I'm not going to say that's what's going to happen because, again, that sort of thing is beyond my level of technical understanding. I know that there's been some speculation, but it's hard to really say. I'm actually really excited for this.
Yes.
I think they can do a lot.
Yes. I think that's kind of the boat that I'm into, is like, I'm so excited for this because it feels like if they really put their mind to it, the sky is the limit. The problem is they need to want to do that, and I very much hope that they do. Corey, actually, in his little segment, and for those of you who don't know, Corey does actually a lot of work on CRL, so special shout out to him as well. Love you, Corey. But in any case, Corey talked a little bit about doing something a little bit more in the vein of kind of even pandering to the sports scene in general, right? He said that the changes they're making will not only change esports, but sports broadcasting in general. Also said, he also kind of mentioned in passing that, you know, getting a more kind of college sports kind of a feel, right? You've seen those graphics on ESPN where it does like the whole like moving parts and like the F1s, the intros too, where it's like, oh, it goes that way and then it goes that way, and then like the huge screen comes together and bang, and then it's got like the team logos, that kind of stuff. If you can get that in Rocket League, A+. Like, that would be a massive step up for production. And again, having access to the engineers who worked on Unreal Engine in the first place can only make the odds better. So, for production-wise, great. I think one of the downsides to this kind of a thing, though, is that lots of people probably weren't so hyped about it because they don't really care what goes in behind the scenes. They just want to see the finished product, right? As long as you get to the end, they do not care what kind of work you had to do to get there, right? They're just like, oh, hey, that looks cool. All right, so that's like the one downside, but still, massive kudos for anybody who actually understands how that kind of stuff will work.
Yeah, and there also is a link, so if you go on the Rocket League Esports YouTube channel, they actually have a separate little segment there that talks about it. I'm not going to play the interview. Again, we only have so much time. But again, they had like, I think it was, that looks like Daz in there. I want to say that's Daz. Right? I almost said teammates, but I'm pretty sure that's Daz. Yeah, Daz in there doing the interview, you know, and talking about some of the broadcast packages in there. So super, super excited for that. Again, possibilities I think are pretty much sky high. Hopefully we get a tremendous broadcast product because it propels the scene so much when you have an attractive product and, you know, you can show it to everyone and say this is what we can do. Like, that helps a lot.
Also, on that note, it would be really cool if they did end up doing that, if they could make the assets public. I doubt that's going to happen. All right, I'm just throwing it out there. They're probably not going to publicize Hype Chamber. But please, if there was anybody you could give it to, like anybody like DreamHack working a sanctioned broadcast or the CCA, like, we would eat that shit up.
For how much money and time I'm guessing they have put into this, I doubt they will do it. However, shoot your shot, King. Shoot your shot, King. Let them know.
No harm in asking. And hey, Corey was the guy who was doing the interview, all right? Look, I'll tell Bumney. Okay, I'll tell Bumney. It's like, hey, see if you can get Corey to give us access to Hype Chamber. And, worst thing he can say is no, all right? That's all I'm throwing out there.
Listen, I'm all about it. Worst they could say is no, but we'll have to see how the new broadcast looks. Again, we should get our first taste of it with the start of the fall split beginning October 15th, about a month from now. But moving on, we're going to talk about, actually, it's probably, believe it or not, I think we're getting close to the end, Squid. I want to say
crazy.
We're pretty much there.
Yeah, we've got one or two things left, which is perfect.
Yep, should be right about it. The RL Esports website is getting a brand new launch, so they're building it, I guess, completely from the ground up here. I was moderately annoyed at this because they kind of directly took a shot at the backbone of this esport in making this announcement, but go ahead.
Well, I know exactly what you're going to say. I don't necessarily think it was a shot. I don't think it was like a jab. I think they were just using it as an example to kind of display the ineptitude of their website. So I'm just going to throw that out there, but...
Yes, for anyone who follows the scene in any level of depth, you know that the Rocket League Liquipedia is the place to go for literally anything. We use it on the show every single week. I use it personally all the time. I have my own Liquipedia page that I'm very proud of. It is the backbone of this esport. It really is. That website
Perino,
is the backbone of this esport.
I mean, you even mentioned it's like we use it every week. When I got on to record the show, I wasn't going to look at the main website for the format and whatnot. I actually typed in Liquipedia first, and I was like, oh, they don't have a page on it yet? I guess I'll go to the website. So in case you need kind of a scale or a reference, that's how important Liquipedia is.
Yeah, and the whole website relift, obviously it's really important. I think it's critical even that Rocket League Esports has a well-designed, high-functioning website that people can use as a resource to access the game. I agree with the premise. You shouldn't have to rely on a third party to have a actually functioning website. The official website has been horrible for a long time. Listen, we can come out and say it now because they're redoing it. It was horrible for a long time. It often was incorrect. Critical information was difficult to find. It wasn't updated in a timely manner after events. It suffered in pretty much every way that an official website could. Glad that they're doing this. It's worth their time. I do love Wikipedia, but I also understand, hey, like we actually need a real official website that looks good and works well.
I think those gripes have been around for a long time. But, I mean, again, to put it in perspective, I think one thing I will do to give Sonics a little bit of consolation is I don't really remember a time when I ever went to reference the official website as opposed to just going to Wikipedia. So, kudos, right? You mentioned how you shouldn't have to rely on a third-party resource. But, shout out to Wikipedia. We butter him up the whole time. And Lukash, you could not ask for a better primary contributor to a wiki than Lukash. He is on top of stuff at all times. But yeah, getting the overhaul. I believe they said that that's going to be happening within the next year. So that's not happening soon, unfortunately, as I recall. I could have gotten that wrong, so correct me if that's the case. But I don't think that's going to be too huge of a deal for a little bit. But once they do update that website, then I actually look forward to it. Because if we could get a resource that could potentially replace Wikipedia, I would certainly love to see it, because you would have to make a damned quality product in order to make me switch over. But I do think we're kind of exhausting that resource now. So moving into the home stretch here, Perino, last point that I really want to make. I might miss something here, but key words, majors. The plan for majors is that the events will be 5 to 7 days of broadcasted events. And that's not all. World Championships, as we mentioned before, with the wild card need to be played out prior to the main event, will be a 2-week ordeal. And that is a quote. World Championship will be a 2-week ordeal, according to the subreddit right here. So that is going to be huge. As I mentioned before, I don't believe that whole 2 weeks will be spectator-friendly. That could be some misinformation that I was fed, so I would take that with a grain of salt right now. I certainly would hope that they allow people to spectate live for the wild card, because having a 2-week-long LAN, that would be mind-blowing. And something else I do also want to point out before I hand it off here is that Corey did say they were thinking about making regionals LANs in the future. I think that might be a future season of RLCS, but that's kind of the last note I wanted to make on that point.
Yes, it was Kovalo on Twitter who you're thinking of.
Yes.
Who is he's a talent manager at Clover Talent, so he's an agent who represents a lot of the talent within the scene. I know Clover represents actually a lot of people within Rocket League.
Oh, yeah.
So he's the one that said, just so you guys are aware, the 2-week World Championships doesn't mean that you'll be able to attend and watch 2 weeks of Rocket League. Most of that will happen behind closed doors, with the final 3 to 4 days being at the quote-unquote main event. Honestly, I think that's much smarter. Most people can't afford to take like 2 weeks off to go do something, unless you literally saved up and scheduled it out now, like starting at the point of announcement for an entire 2 weeks. You know, you'd have to wait that long. Yeah, I think that's a bit more reasonable. I think that's probably what we're more likely to see.
I think also on that note, you mentioned the cost for travelers. I think that you could easily circumnavigate that problem by arguing, and which I would argue, right, is just say for the people who can only afford to go for so long, only go for so long, right? You don't have to be there for the whole event. I think what the problem probably would be is that if you have a 2-week-long live event, you need to pay venue fees, you need to pay for security, you need to do the setup that early, you probably need to, oh my goodness, like you need to pay the talent all the more, right? To be out there doing a live event, I'm sure the rates are probably going to be a little bit higher for doing that World's LAN. So there's a couple of more things that go into that, I suspect. But on that note, I would say if anybody from Psyonix for some reason hears this, I would happily go and spectate a LAN that is essentially people just playing on setups that are thrown out there on the main floor. I don't care what the quality of the setup is, as long as you have it on the big screen. I don't care if there's commentary. I really do not. Right? As long as there is Rocket League being played in a LAN environment in a world setting, I will want to be there.
Yeah, it would be a massive undertaking to do like a full production 2-week event. I doubt they do it. It's almost certainly way too expensive. And I don't even think that it would be well attended for most of the week. I think a lot of people would make the logical deduction of, okay, I can't go for 2 weeks. I'm only going to go for the main event, you know, because that's probably the one that you'd want to see. Unless you were a particular fan of a team that was in wildcards and you weren't certain they were going to make it through, something like that. You know, like I would say 90% of people would probably just go to the main event, so they might as well only just do it those days anyway. Yeah, wow. Is that it? Did we cover it all?
I think so.
I guess so. Wow.
Yep.
It's a lot to consider, Squid.
It's so much.
I'm so happy. The one thing that I'll say, you know, again, I was at work today. I didn't really have a chance to, you know, participate in any of the live stuff, announcements, whatever. Universally, like across the board, I have not seen a singular negative comment from anyone in the community today. Now, I'm sure that'll change over time, and people will find things. Like, don't get me wrong, but this has been an incredibly positive day for everyone in the community to rally behind something that we all wanted, and the fact that I would say Psyonix has, at least in their announcement, delivered in a way that we have never seen from them before. I mean,
yes.
A+ from Psyonix today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think everybody's going to be in agreement there. People next are probably going to tell them, hey, get your communication in line now for the future. Although I do think that, as much as people say that, there is a degree to which I would claim that the secrecy is part of the magic. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Not really going to speak on it anymore. Final thoughts from me, though. I do want to say it was awesome to see, in particular, Murdy, or Sonic Scheist, as some of you might know him from his old days as a PRL admin or at Rival Esports or what have you. That man's come a long way, he has. But he did note that there are some community members out there who have been working a long time for the Asian League or others as well who have gotten opportunities now. Nish in particular has been working a hell of a lot for APL, and Not Blonde Monkey has also gotten a spot helping with the regional management for Northern Africa and the Middle East. So I'm super stoked to see those guys getting those spots, and I feel with the announcements that they made, we could expect to see more of those kinds of community people starting to step up and take responsibility. I believe actually Furtive ended up putting out a tweet saying that he actually rejected an offer to be the NA regional manager. So there is a possibility that somebody else from the community will get that opportunity, and I'm super stoked to hear about who does. But overall, it's a great way to start off a new era of Rocket League esports. I think the only upside we could get from here, which might be an unfortunate way to look at it considering the bar is set so high, but the one upside we could get is if the competition from the new regions is truly as good as we hope it is.
Yeah, I think that'll be tough for the new regions to compete right away. I don't anticipate them to come out of the gate strong. But given that they have, official support now, today is the day that Rocket League has become a global esport, and I think that really should be the storyline. You can compete at the highest level from effectively anywhere in the world now. Don't talk to me about Antarctica. You can compete in this game at the highest level no matter where you live. That alone is a tremendous undertaking. The fact that not only they went that far, but then also included all of the stuff, the esports decals, the production side, everything, that we've talked about, international lands, etc., etc. The fact that they have packed it all into one day, absolutely incredible. But this is day one of being a truly global esport, and that is amazing in its own right.
Absolutely. But, Perino, I think that's really all we got for the show here today. I mean, like I said, there was some little news bits that happened here and there, but it was really all about RLCS. And we've spoken our 2 cents. We're just now passing the hour mark. It has been a wonderful time being here to speculate and discuss all these different changes. Again, the grid being gone, that's really the one big downside.
Yeah.
But that's only for us, right? If you really have some casters that you really want to support in the scene, you can go out and do it. But still, I think almost all of these changes are net positives. I love to see them expanding upon the RLCS X format, especially. I very much enjoyed how we had that consistent type of Rocket League action, right? It's more akin to other esports. Like CSGO, as I mentioned before, they have majors throughout the year. This kind of feels like that kind of a situation where you can always tune in somewhere whenever you want, and there's probably a Rocket League game happening.
Yeah, I think some of the charm of Season 10 is lost in the fact that you didn't really have like the build-up to international events. We'll see how it goes for Stockholm, but having true international lands, bringing everyone together, like it creates such a different dynamic, and I think people are really going to love when they get true international play, like at the end of each at the end of each split for each major. Each major, I think, is going to feel so much more impactful when you have that kind of environment. So this is everything we could have wanted and more today, truly. Again, I'm sure people will find things to complain about over the course of the next 48 hours or so, but that's pretty much it. That's the immediate reaction, or about as immediate as you can get here from Squidd and I. Any final thoughts before we go?
Nope. I'm going to hop off here before too long. We crack open a cold one and count down the days until October 15th. That's all I'm going to do.
It's about a month away, guys, as we are headed out here on Around the Scene. Again, please make sure to, tell your friends about the show, tag us on Twitter, like and subscribe, follow, hit the thumbs up, whatever it is that you want to do, no matter where you're listening or where you're watching. We appreciate every single one of you. This has been Around the Scene, presented to you by Playing with Rockets. My name is Perino. My lovely guest today was Squidd. Thanks again for coming on. We hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and we will catch you next week, guys. Take care.